A little bit colder out here than last week. I just had something on my heart that I wanted to say, and it's going to be aggressive. And people have this conception that authenticity, real true hip hop, comes from New York. It started there as far as the music is concerned, but if you really look back on what hip hop really represents, hip hop represents freedom. It also represents the struggle of what black folks have gone through in this country. It's not the, we shall overcome type emotion of anger. It's not the let's come down and reason together. Because the reasoning together and the overcoming, that's clearly been ignored. Hip hop is here. And I believe whatever you call God, source energy, the universe, whatever it is, it did have black people in America favored in such a way because of our tenacity, our longevity, our strength, and the fact that what had happened to us overall, the kidnapping from our country, the acting as if we're not even human beings, the violence that we had went through. We're resilient. White supremacy understands that the number one objective of that is to never let black people have any type of stance on equality. White supremacy doesn't want a side-by-side partner. It wants dominance, and it is rooted in terror. That's what white supremacy is. Hip hop is the complete opposite. It's the rival. It's the if you call white supremacy natural evil, hip hop is natural love. It represents the type of aggression, the type of energy that we love hard. Oh my God, black people love so hard. We love hard. This is why when you see these videos where these women are going through their relationship issues, and you can see the heartbreak when whatever their situation happened to them, whether they were cheated on, whether they just came to a conclusion where they can no longer be with a partner, it devastates them in a way. And I can tell you from experience, because my mother was a single woman, and my father was not. And those motherfuckers fucked around and made me. And ultimately, when it really came down to it, my father stayed with his family. And that was a devastating thing to my mother. I don't know a lot about the background of their relationship. I'm trying to illustrate a point that although my mother was able to move on and love again, although she was able to raise me to the best of her ability, she never quite got over that situation. And quite honestly, my dad I really believe he really wanted to be with my mama instead. So there's that. And I can only tell you that I know that for sure is because of what happened at the end of my dad's life when he began to get dementia and Alzheimer's. I had some really intense moments with him during that period. But there were some times where he would just space off and talk about my mama in a way that it was just, I wasn't necessarily shocked, but it was just interesting to hear how he really, really felt about, like he had a deep love for my mama. And I believe my mom had that same amount of deep love for his punk ass. But he did her dirty. But I'm giving an example of how hard she loved. Black women are the backbone of not just the black community. They are the backbone of this earth. They are the first ones here. Black women are the first ones here. And with the same amount of love and nurturing that they have that can create whole nations, that same, when it's betrayed, it could go beyond the means of all types of anger that you would ever consider. So God, I believe, instilled what we see as hip hop in my mama and in black people, in this spirit of what we needed to do to combat white supremacy. That's what it did. That's what it is. Hip hop is the rival. And, you know, over the years, we've gotten a lot of good business out of hip hop. You know, this is the perfect example of creating something and then figuring out how to monetize it. That's what hip hop is. At first, people just did it for fun, and the next thing you know, we have Jay-Z, who's a billionaire. That is it. What we know is hip hop today, it did come from New York, the Bronx to be specific, but the spirit of it goes further back than you can ever imagine. The spirit of hip hop. Nat Turner had the spirit of hip hop. When you hear that a lot of these slaves, they just wasn't going along with the program. You can even look the movie Django. They was beating the shit out of his woman because she kept trying to escape. You know, it was revolt. She was trying to escape because she couldn't fight back. It was only just her. And, you know, you've always had those individuals who wanted to say, fuck the system and fuck you. And they take a little bit of shit, and then they take a lot of shit. And then after they done taking shit, they shit on people. And I'm talking about that in the most brutal fashion. Because we are peaceful people by nature. So, if we can create ways to help us deal with the pain and move from it, we can also create ways to literally be a physical, formidable opponent to white supremacy. Now that's a little bit deep. I don't want to go too far into that because this is about current day hip hop and understanding that New York has been the centerpiece. It's been what you would call ground zero for hip hop. And then Me, I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Oakland, California. I had family all over the country. And everywhere I went, in my teens, even single digits, my teens, my 20s, we all loved New York, the music. And we never looked at them like, those are New York niggas. We looked at them as though they were rappers who were communicating extraordinary stories to us and making us dance and making us feel good about ourselves, but then hating the poverty, hating the violence, hating the gangs, and hating their unsafe communities. And there was nobody to help them while they're, it's one thing when nobody's helping you and nobody's getting help, but when nobody's helping you, but you see those people that you're looking to help you help other people, but they won't help you, and it's deliberate. It's on purpose that they don't help us. It's on purpose that the Middle Eastern people can come in these black neighborhoods and set up all their convenience stores, and then they got all the prices for, you know, their products, but they always have this extra little charge they put on their debit machines, $2, $3. You got to pay X amount of dollars in whatever they're selling. At least $3 if you want to use their ATM machines, their debit machines, their sliding cards, and things of that nature. They take advantage of us horribly, and we just allow this shit. You know, sometimes we've had problems with the Asians, you know, in our community, taking advantage of the people and not respecting the people, not loving the people. There's a lot of anger that comes from that. But we had love and deep admiration. They weren't just rappers they weren't New York rappers to us. They were just rappers to us. And it wasn't until we started getting a little bit older then that actually started having an effect. And it came on when the West Coast started to pop for itself. We didn't receive the same love that we gave. There was always some little backhanded compliment that you would hear from folks from New York concerning the success from the West Coast. And it was hurtful because we were like, what the fuck, y'all? Like, we love this shit. Y'all know y'all love. What, y'all don't love Dre? Y'all don't love Too Short? Huh? I know we have our differences about MC Hammer, but that motherfucker was the most polarizing figure in the history of hip hop. And folks were looking at him as popcorn rap. But as the time went by and the years have moved on, Hammer is not a popcorn motherfucker. It's deep East Coast niggas that say Hammer is way worse than many of us all would ever imagine. And not in a mean-spirited way. It's just that you can't play with MC Hammer. He don't play. But he earned that respect. But in the beginning, even me, like, I loved MC Hammer because he's from Oakland, I'm from Oakland. I had a family member in his group. I went to plenty of his concerts. I bought all his albums. Like, I was close to, I never met him, but I was close connected to the whole situation from like afar, if you will. But I know we all had venom from MC Hammer because he didn't go in the traditional line of what we would see from a hip hop, because you either had party rappers and then you had the rappers who spoke more reality about shit that they went through or shit that they seen it in their neighborhood. You know, and there was other little branch offs from there, but most of the real hip hop heads, we wasn't into the pop shit. Not to say that Hammer was even pop. He was making black music, but when it was a lot of white people who happened to be consuming that, and we felt the way about it because it's like, what the fuck, you know, it was unusual to us. And then also the spirit of us had began to waken, like deeply at that point. But there was a lot of kickback for West Coast artists, but y'all was still buying and listening to our shit. Cause I've been to Virginia where you get a pot of all types of shit. There's some South down there. There's some fucking deep East Coast. There's some up north. It's Philly, New York, Connecticut, DC, all intertwined in the Hampton, Virginia area of Virginia. That's where I was at for a little part of my life. So I know the East Coast niggas, that they listen, but then they show this animosity as if they feel like they have to, their spot's being threatened. Ain't nobody trying to threaten y'all niggas. There's never been a time when West Coast went out of its way to do something to provoke East Coast. That didn't happen until after their first signs of jealousy towards us, for whatever reason. They didn't consider West Coast hip hop. They just said that's G-Funk. Oh yeah, that's hip hop, but that's West Coast over there. That like nigga, we don't write bars, make beats, produce music, choreograph, profit from it, build from it, but we just tell our stories. And y'all got y'all story, and we respect, and we have learned from y'all's story, but instead of learning from us, they belittle it. And it wasn't until Tupac, and he noticed it, and he started understanding it. And then it went from that to the person. But anyway, Kendrick Lamar has done the unthinkable. There's a billionaire rapper who helped produce Kendrick Lamar, who got 5 Grammys from one song. He won the most important battle in recent memory. And, social media is largely to do with that, because we could all see everybody's reactions to everything in real time. Drake dropped, Kendrick dropped, Drake dropped, Kendrick dropped, and it's just, then all of a sudden it just went from a day out where we can just set out and just admire hip hop, and then Kendrick just turned all the lights out. If it wasn't Mike Tyson-esque, where you could see Mike Tyson in a fight, and it could be a little bit difficult. I'm talking about prime Mike Tyson. Maybe a guy can take his punch a little bit more than the average person can, and they got a few skills, and they can deal with things early in a fight. But as the fight moves on, all of a sudden, the 4th or 5th round, Tyson unloads the combination, and it just completely breaks and obliterates and just ends everything. That's what Kendrick Lamar did. I noticed that there was some undercurrent of East Coast hate. It wasn't hard, it wasn't outside, it wasn't big at first. But I could just notice that the culture would react to one way and one thing and see it how it's happening. But then these podcasters would get on and they would speak one thing, and it was almost like it was dismissive. Drake is big, and he's really big on the East Coast because a lot of those niggas understand that it's about, if we in the music business, we make the type of music that can create business. We got to get some money, and Drake is the cash cow. So a lot of these East Coast niggas, they may not have come out and said it. But they all said, look, we're just gonna ride with Drake, even though we know this is gonna be ugly, but we're gonna have to ride with Drake because there's no way that New York can be unified in standing behind Kendrick Lamar, and so on. And then you had the element of Kendrick Lamar actually winning the battle and having the biggest song in the world and being the most talked about personality and experience and artist in the world, and then is invited to perform halftime in the Super Bowl. And when he performed halftime in the Super Bowl, that wasn't a performance where we can critique and say we liked it or didn't like it. It was a piece of art, and there was a story behind it. And, you know, if it come from anybody but him, hip-hop would be completely unified and be behind this. If Jay-Z had performed and given that type of a performance, the entire community of hip-hop would have gotten behind it, whether you don't like him or not. We would have supported him because we knew he was speaking for us. Everybody knew Kendrick Lamar was speaking for us. Kendrick Lamar knew the president would be in attendance. Kendrick Lamar knew that he had to say something because this is not just the battle, but it's a trying time for us here in America. Everything is coming out, everything's being revealed, everything is being sensationalized. But there's real hatred and animosity. And the rival to white supremacy is standing here in front of you on the biggest stage in the world. That is what Kendrick Lamar did. There's not one rapper in the history of hip-hop itself who wouldn't have wanted to be in his shoes. Joe Budden, Mace, Cameron, Puff, J. Cole, A$AP Rocky, every rapper. There's not one rapper in the world that would have turned that job down. There's not one rapper in the world, because what do we want? What does an MC want? An MC has stories, and he's seen and witnessed things, and he needs to be heard. That's what an MC needs, to be heard. The true ones, because the true MCs are speaking on behalf of the people. And we are tired. We are tired of open racism. We are tired of Karens. We are tired of, I'm 53 years old. The entirety of my life has been lived under the scrutiny of white supremacy. Kendrick Lamar said, time's up. That's what that show was about. The fun part was when they all got in the circle, the battle circle. That's when he broke it back down to us. They're in the circle, and he's walking around inside the circle, and he says, "Hey Drake," looks right in the camera. That was battle. What did we do? Battle didn't just start on the stage where people are just completely disrespectful towards each other. Battle was in the circles, in the in your junior middle school playground during lunch and recess. That's where the battle started. As we're walking towards each other, as we're switching classes, going from class to class, niggas would get in a quick circle and go toe to toe for 30 bars apiece. That's what that was. That's what that was. The battle. He's inside the circle, looks in the camera, says, "Say Drake, that was for us." That's just the regular, real hip hop shit. But all the other shit, all the formations and the marching and the running back and forth and having niggas sleeping on the light pole. Like all that shit. That's the most aggressive stance that black folks, that somebody of his stature, that's the most aggressive stand America has ever seen. And it was right there. We are supposed to be unified behind that nigga. That represented us. It's time. Wake the fuck up. It's time, nigga. Wake up. We can't just let them hit us in the face and nothing happens. and voting won't do, because it ain't done. Marching and protesting ain't gonna do, because it ain't done. The bully has to be punched in the face. The bully needs the same exact energy that it's pushing out to return to him if it's gonna respect it. If it was anybody but Kendrick Lamar, right now we'd probably be in the midst of God knows what. But because it was Kendrick Lamar and he's from the West Coast, that wasn't a hip hop statement. That was a West Coast hip hop statement. You see how dirty and filthy you niggas are looking now? This middle-aged New York niggas out here. Y'all are becoming more MAGA-like. This is what's happening. They say ain't been no rap song out of the top 230 some years or whatever. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Who cares? We have business, we have culture, number one. We have business, we have opportunity, we have love. Only thing we don't have is the unity. And when these rappers who were decent in their career, but they're much bigger as podcasters and they have all these things that they can say, it fucks up the people listening, because we all want to we all know what Kendrick Lamar was doing, but we're not all solidified. And there's a weird energy about it right now, because you niggas are influencing that with your podcast. And I'm not saying you have to be a Kendrick Lamar fan. This is not about fandom. I'm saying we need to talk about and understand what he actually is doing and what he did and what it was supposed to mean for us. That it's over now. We gotta have everything. I don't even want to be treated civil. If you only treating me civil, that means you just tolerating me. You don't really want me around because you just treat me civil. Hey, I'm not gonna punch you in the face, but I know I'm not gonna call you a nigga, but I feel it in my mind, and I can make you see it in my eyes that's what I feel about you. And that's what you are to me. That's what the white folks be thinking when it comes to civil rights. If it ain't straight down the pie for everybody, then there's a problem. And that's just the way that it has to be. There should be no 1%. I don't have no problem. Like, man, and here's another thing. People out here talking about they got problems with these billionaires. You know, every time I turn around, somebody mad at the billionaires. You can't fucking get mad at them because they're extremely good at math and know how to acquire. Yes, a lot of them, everybody's done dirt to get some shit. There's niggas that's working at McDonald's that did dirt to get their position. You know, if a person makes a certain amount of money, so fucking what? Yes, he could probably feed other people and do other things with his money if he wanted to. And if he's choosing not to, that ain't none of my business. I don't know. And yeah, some of these motherfuckers are really evil. And they're using their money to get out of situations and cover situations and things of that and things of that nature. But some of them just like to have a lot of money, and a lot of them do a lot of good shit with their money. And that's neither here nor there. What I'm talking about is that these niggas are so desperate to get Drake on a feature or get them on their podcast that when they're doing their analogies or when they're speaking of things, it seems like they're holding back from, I don't know if it's how they feel, but they're more open to seeing Drake than to see Kendrick. They're more acknowledging, they keep driving, you know, Kendrick's a cash cow, he's gonna be all right and this and that. And ultimately he probably will. But that's not the point of what happened. Well, how come we just can't get behind Kendrick Lamar in this moment? Why does he have to be a West Coast nigga? Because I'm sure when he first heard Run DMC and LL Cool J and Public Enemy and Rakim and KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane and Cool G Rap, when he saw those niggas, he wasn't looking at those New York rappers. He just looked at them as rappers that he loved. Y'all are weak. Stop. That's the oldest, most tiredest. Like, we've all moved past that. That's why I'm seeing that there are more people speaking out on this. But Kendrick Lamar has not fucked up hip-hop. And it's hella fucked up that you motherfuckers would even say some shit like that or even allude to that. It doesn't make sense. Because when the West Coast win, we all win. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a Sugar Ray Leonard without a Marvin Hagler. You know? You can't have a Michael Jordan without a Kobe Bryant. You can't have a Will Chamberlain without a Bill Russell. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a Jay-Z without a Nas. That is the power. And y'all are just going against that, and it sound like a bunch of big teeth ass niggas and bitches that inject shit in their lips with these microphones and going for these viral moments instead of looking at the fact that it's fucking wartime.